Hello and welcome to the March 29th weekly JupyterLab call. Today we have 18 people on the call, but we also have a very sparse agenda. So if you would like to talk, today is a good day because you'll actually have some time. But why don't we get started? The first person on today's agenda is Fred.
Hey everybody, so before jumping to the point I wrote down, just to give you some updates on the follow-up action. We know that JupyterLab Beta 0 is released. Jeremy has been working a lot to use it in downstream projects, so especially we'll use it for having a new beta for Notebook 7, and he will look at Jupyter Lite. And there is also people in Constack that are looking at porting the extension example to be sure that simple extension can be ported easily with the new version, and that there is no problem with the new API. And on my side, I was looking to start configuring the Crotin platform that we are using for translation for JupyterLab 4. The idea was to use another branch because they have that ability to ask translators to translate different versions of the same application. Unfortunately, that feature is not available for the free plan we are using. So yeah, the solution that I'm seeing that we can do is, so what we are doing for now is that we are merging different versions to provide the full list of strings that need to be translated to the translation platform. And so the idea would be to merge then the JupyterLab 4 pre-release with the stable release to get the new string translated, if possible, by the contributors. My question here is, do you think it's a good fix for that problem, or should we try to find some funding basically to get a paid account on that translation platform?
Well, language packs are not especially large, right? Like it's just a bunch of strings.
Yeah, the idea was also to be able to drop, like to take the habits of cleaning up the list of string when we do a major new release, because otherwise we may have the habits to just keep increasing the number of string. And there is another one, the limitation of having a free plan is that we have also limitation on the number of words that we can submit to the platform. I don't know how far we are right now, but I know that there is also a limitation there. Go ahead, Dorian.
If we merge the branches worth of language list into one bundle, is that a good thing? Like, does that actually maybe make language updates more transparent because they propagate downward? Like, maybe it's actually a good idea in general, because you make one language bundle for JupyterLab. It's always one language bundle for JupyterLab. And it actually accidentally turns out that if you have an old version of JupyterLab, your language might still get updated.
Yeah, that was the reason why we up to now we have used that pattern to merge things, so that normally you should get, by installing the latest version, you should get the best coverage possible.
Okay, so then why were we considering not doing that for 4?
To, as I just said before, to take the chance of having sometimes where we start cleaning up that full list. Because I know that
sorry, I missed that.
No problem. That I know that we have that other limitation that at some point the platform will tell us with a free plan you cannot have as many words for translation. But I mean, we can move forward with merging. I'm fine with that solution. I was just wanting to ask opinions about it, and if we in the future we hit that limitation of the number of words, then we can revise what to do.
Just to add some context, the French language pack is 80 kilobytes on PyPy, the source distribution, so it's not much. And there might be other changes for the translators. So in the user interface, depending on which solution we go for, they might be the automatic recognition of strings from screenshots, which is a function of crowding, very useful for translators, might not work as well as if there were two separate branches, but that's probably a minor point. And essentially, I think we are not asking at the right place, because ideally we would just post a message to everyone who contributes on the crowding using the interface to see how much of a priority citizen translators think splitting that by branches.
I can definitely reach out to all contributor crowding. It's just that raising the question of money, I was not feeling comfortable to raise that question there, as they are providing us money through their time. It's more like in this call, I feel confident because we know that some of the people here are working for companies that sometimes are ready to contribute financially. So yeah, but I will reach out. That's a good point, Mike, to the contributors on crowding.
One thing I've been wondering about the versions is if there is a string that is the same between different versions, does that need to be translated once per version?
No, the platform is already very smart about it.
There are some small things to so if the location of the string changes in the source file, it will be recorded that it's in a different line. And if the platform cannot fully recognize the string as the same as it was previously, it will still suggest the translator to copy from the most similar string. So if there is like a single word, single letter changed, it will still be quite easy for the translator to get it back.
That's very clever.
And thanks for all the information. The other point is, so Marta and I are gonna be presenting what's new in JupyterLab 4 at the JupyterCon in May. And we have actually a question. We were not sure about the full extent of features we should speak about. I was more going for speaking only of what's new in JupyterLab 4, and Marta suggested that we could probably extend that list, as the last JupyterCon was in 2020, meaning it was when we released, like just before we released officially JupyterLab 3.0.0. So yeah, that was also to bring that discussion. And as the community, what would you like us to present as features, like as new shiny things? That was the other question for me.
There's already a talk about real-time collaboration.
I'm sorry, Elaine, I did not catch your answer.
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, the last talk was in 2020, right?
Yeah, last one was in 2020, yeah.
Real-time collaboration, but I was just looking at the schedule, and there's already a talk dedicated specifically. What other, non-4.0 features?
Lane, your mic is very unclear.
Anyone else have any input? Okay, well, my intuition would be to talk about all the new features that haven't been presented officially in a talk before. So not just strictly 4.0.0, but recent UI features. I think it's good to call them out. But yeah, I don't know. What does everyone else think?
Check. So there is a talk scheduled about real-time collaboration. I saw that, right? So if you haven't presented since 2020, that's like one of the big things. Is there going to be a talk about Jupyter Scheduler?
Jupyter Scheduler at the conference?
Yeah.
We have a poster approved for Jupyter Scheduler, but I don't believe we have a talk on the agenda about it. There is a talk on the schedule about a scheduler for Jupyter, but it is not Jupyter Scheduler.
Okay,
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Darian.
cool. Thanks, Fred. All right, next up we have Vidar.
Yeah, I was doing that question. We did it also in the HackMD, a little bit asynchronously. So I just saw that the JupyterLab render mime pulls in the YJS code via the code editor package that it depends on. It's fine. And then in my Jest test in NVDime, there it fails with the reference error to crypto. And I don't know, does Jest use Webpack under the hood? Is that maybe the issue? And that Webpack 4 to Webpack 5 transition means that you're losing out on the polyfill. I didn't think I upgraded my Jest either. So I'm not sure why this is suddenly failed, or maybe that would have failed previously as well. It's just that now the JupyterLab render mime package pulls in the YJS that then pulls in the dependency on crypto. Maybe that's the issue. Do we know when the JupyterLab 3 packages started pulling in the Y packages? Was that in 3.5, 3.6?
It's probably 3.6, I imagine, but is it not possible to tell Jest to use something when crypto is mentioned? Like, can you not set a global
I'm
crypto?
sure there's a config setting somewhere. I just want to make sure that I understand why it started failing. Because
yeah.
Yeah, as I said, this is not the Webpack building step, right? This is in just Jest, and I don't know if that uses Webpack under the hood. Because we're not.
Well, maybe the Just config in JupyterLab is different than the Just config in an extension, and maybe the cookie cutter needs to be updated. Is that possible?
I'm not using the cookie cutter.
Okay.
I'm just updating some other stuff, and suddenly the JavaScript started failing, probably because it pulled in a newer version of the JupyterLab package that then had this crypto stuff.
There's been
But I am looking
changes.
to upgrade to Webpack 5 for NPTime any moment as well. So it is all useful stuff anyways.
Because I know there has been changes in Lumino core utils about it, and that brought some issue for a couple of people.
Yeah. So looking at the stack, it's being pulled in by web protocols. That's why I was asking here, but yeah, I know that Lumina also did some back and forth on crypto. So yeah, I was just picking people's brain. So, but yeah, if it was recently added in like 3.5 or 3.6, this dependency, then it probably makes sense. So I'll just look at the just config then. Makes sense. Thanks a lot. That's everything for me.
Cool. Thanks, Vidar. Oh, you have some notes in the HackMD as well. Cool. Okay. Next up, we have Piyush.
Hi, everyone. I had a technical question about JupyterLab LSP and wanted to understand if it's possible to just turn on linting and suppress all the other features if a LSP extension is installed. I saw that there are already some responses here. I'm still not sure if this is, for example, the disabled extensions. Is there an example available that I can see to kind of know what values it can be used for that?
If you
Sorry.
just run JupyterLab extension disable and the name of the plugin. So this is the standard
but
mechanism.
I don't want to disable the extension. I want to keep LSP extension, but just disable
So
one or two features.
Yeah. So all the features are implemented as separate plugins. And
Okay.
unfortunately, the naming of the command which disables individual plugins is disable lab extension disable.
Okay. So for example, linting is another extension and completion is another one. So it'll disable, you can disable them selectively.
Yes, that's at least the state for the extension, JupyterLab LSP extension in version 3 and 4. It might change in the future as we integrate that with the core, but this is the case right now.
So is the assumption correct that in 4 there's native integration, at least the interface for LSP in 4.x, or is it still that users need to install the LSP extension in order to use LSP completions, for example?
So there isn't most of the features that are in the extension are not implemented in the core. The core basically pulled in some of the core infrastructure which is used for communicating with the server, and there is an implementation of some completion in JupyterLab core for JupyterLab 4.0, but it actually interferes with the extension as it is. So this is one of the tasks that we actually should be looking at right now as the beta was released, how to get it back together, how to port the JupyterLab LSP extension so that it still provides all the features and then selectively pull the plugins from the extension into the core as we have consensus on including any of the specific features. Like you mentioned linting, that is something that we can probably maintain in core, but there may be syntax highlighting would be a little bit more controversial. So that's the work in progress.
I see. And so for in current state, if somebody has 4 installed and they install JupyterLab LSP extension along with that, would it still work, or there'd be problems with that?
So just to disambiguate, there is JupyterLab LSP extension version 4, and there is JupyterLab 4. So if you have JupyterLab 4, the extension, the LSP extension, would not work at all. And this is also because, like, for the linting, for the diagnostics to show up, we have to port all that code to CodeMirror 6. But the server part of the extension, so Jupyter LSP server extension, it is still kind of working, but it doesn't provide user interface features.
Got it. Got it. And is there a plan to release this with the 4.0 release, or is this going to be work after that release? So that LSP works on 4.0.
I don't have an answer to that. I would like for that to be the case, and would probably have time, but that might require some coordination.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Anyone who hasn't added to the agenda but might want to talk about something, now is your chance. I'll give you a minute.
Yeah, let's see here. I've been just talking to myself in the chat over here. Yeah, so regarding that very last topic, Savant said that there's going to be some people working on getting LSP up and ready to go now that we got a JupyterLab beta out. I don't know if they're going to try and get it into Notebook 7 too. I don't know. We had it working in Retro, but I don't know. Things change. Then another one is just a general hot tip of, if you make an extension and it does something weird as soon as it's installed, put a top level disabled kill switch in it so that you can turn it off. That's what I tell everybody that's starting off, and I guess we should put that in the cookie cutter. But that helps everybody.
I have a point here. I actually opened an issue proposing that we have a list of an ability to disable plugins selectively. I'm linking this issue in the chat right now.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I don't know. It's real easy to get into a real broken state if you disable something that something else needs. And then your UI might not draw. And you will not be able to recover. Like we've been talking about having a ring 0 configurator that itself is not extensible for everything all the way down to server forever. But, you know, having hacked a fair amount of hot lab with chains of extensions at the same time, it's very easy to get yourself in a you're not going to space today kind of situation. But yeah, that would be cool. It'd be great if we could do that in a way that you could get back from. You know, it's just the broken Coke bottle is super important. And then scrolling, unless you had anything else to retort on there, Doctor. I'm gonna say no. Okay. And then scrolling back up a little bit further, all this Webpack stuff. Yesterday, I want to say Safari 16.4 landed and 16.5 is already planned or whatever. And a crucial feature is coming there that has been, you know, a thorn in everybody's side for a long time. And that is, yeah, and if you make disabled extensions work, if you actually don't load them, even though they're called for, that would be great, is scoped import maps. So now that you can put a, you know, you can make a script tag with type module, every browser supports that, you know, 95% browser penetration or whatever. With import maps, they do basically what our module federation stuff does, where it says, if you do a require, but now an import, a real native import without require, from a particular file, the scoped import map can tell you which file that should resolve to. So it can handle our duplicate Vegas, it can handle all that kind of stuff. There would still be probably an upfront, wouldn't call it a build step. It would be more like extensions would declare what their imports are, just like we have today. And the server would be responsible for generating that import map. And that is just a JSON script file, whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you wrote clean as the driven snow, ES20, whatever is supported by the browsers, there wouldn't have to be a transpilation step. You could even write ES with the type JS doc syntax and type check it fully with TypeScript and not have to transpile. You wouldn't get the, let's not start using TypeScript decorators. Let's just not. But that's a pretty exciting thing. And looking out to 5, standards alignment, more schema, more use of web standards, maybe web components will get themselves figured out. But I see that as a really good way to get us off of Jupyter Island and working better with other tools.
Do you, Nick, and also Mike want to talk about the next item as well?
Do you mean the commands discovery?
Yeah,
or...
yeah.
So that issue was opened over a month ago, or even further back. And because I would like to possibly work on that for 4.1 if possible, and there is a few ideas. I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar. So the problem is that we cannot currently know which arguments does an extension accept without looking at the code where it is defined. And Nick proposed to create a schema and register every command with typed arguments. There are some other possible solutions, but just so that it's not 2 of us talking, it would be very nice if we could have some further feedback, and also, like, even if it's just thumbs up or very short comment on what you think would be the preferred solution.
So I don't have any direct input on that, other than to say that there are a bunch of other command palettes and command solutions around in editor land, right? So if anybody has any data on how other pluggable extensions or systems do this, that could be very informative. Maybe help us
So
avoid
for example,
some. Well, I know like VS Code is a code
yes.
palette first, right? There's others. Extension system just has some kind of central command thing. So the more lessons you can learn from other people's mistakes, the better, right?
That's a good point. VS Code, I believe, implements that using package.json file. So there's a specific entry in this file, which all the extensions contribute a list of commands together with description.
Can we use either the debug adapter protocol or the LSP protocol to define functions and arguments so that it's in line with the rest of the stuff we're building and maybe even becomes compatible with other bits of UI we have? Because they have a specification for these things, right? Or are they not JSON schemas? I guess they're just interfaces, aren't they?
So DAP is good at schema, right? Like, and has great stuff in there. It doesn't really define custom junk that you can do. The LSP has repeatedly pushed back against using a standards-based format for documenting itself or working on the wire or anything. So they've got their own special several layers deep meta model for things, and you're expected to go learn how to parse their thing, which is great if you're inside of the Microsoft Wire, but otherwise you just kind of left to your own devices. So for example, they're using that to build out, yeah, right, arguments are any, nice. They're using that to build out the Python LSP types, which are used by Piggles, the toolkit for building Python stuff. To my knowledge, the Python LSP package still does its own thing, so whatever. Yeah, I mean, a lot of like, so the ones that people have wanted to do custom stuff, I want to say that LaTeX LSP had some stuff that it's kind of broken if you can't use it for like building a LaTeX document. And then it has some additional interesting, complicated stuff for going to the place in a LaTeX document from a PDF where the LaTeX came from, which is kind of incredible. But we have not tried to bite that off. But I wouldn't be surprised if their commands are just any, and that looks like what Mike has found here. I mean, it's fine.
I mean, the debug adapter protocol defines a variable, for example, and that's semi-useful. But yeah, I see. I don't see types that seem directly applicable here, so it seems like you don't really gain much here. So fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the Jupyter's perspective, putting it in a we've already claimed package JSON. We already have a sub key in package JSON. If you put JupyterLab in your package JSON, we got that, you know. And I see the only problem with package JSON is it actually ends up on the wire a fair amount for different kind of things. So it ends up in the registry and all that. So if you look at file browser, if you actually fully described with, you know, nice human readable semantics, all of the definitions of your commands, that package JSON is going to start getting pretty big. That's not my problem. And right now we don't actually, in vanilla, in core lab, we don't fetch the package JSONs. Or maybe does the extension manager? No, it's got its own thing. It does its own thing to list that. So it doesn't actually serve up the whole thing. So yeah, it's really, there are certainly some trade-offs for how that would work, and not everything would fit in there. There's definitely places that dynamically define commands. Where I see the value from it is the documentation side. So, you know, you drop into Sphinx, and we go off and generate all those things, and we know exactly which plugin it maps to. Oh, that was the other thing. It could go in the schema thing where we also have our own the plugin settings. Wherever it goes, if it's at rest outside of TypeScript, suddenly we can do all kinds of things with it that are not shackled to the TypeScript.
Right.
Someone's trying to talk? I couldn't quite hear.
Yeah, did I interrupt someone just now? Okay. I suggest stopping the recording, and then we can maybe look at some open bugs. But I'll give you one last opportunity if there's something you'd like to say. Okay. Brace yourselves.